Christopher Rosen, and I'm joined by Jon Bernthal, the star of King Richard, out in theaters on November 19th and also available on HBO Max. It's a tremendously busy year for Jon as well. He's in a ton of movies, but I do want to start talking about King Richard. You play Rick Macci in the film. Maybe not the type of character people necessarily associate with you. I can't imagine anyone else playing the part, though, having seen the film. Can you talk a little about like what interested you in the role and why you wanted to pursue the film?
Wow. Well, thanks, man. It's an honor to talk to you. Look, I think so much. There's never anything really, fortunately or unfortunately, sort of strategic kind of career-wise about how I approach this stuff. It's just if, when I read a script, if it really resonates with me, or if it's about something that I personally sort of relate to, and if it's important to me. I don't know. There's just certain scripts where I say I'll walk through a wall for this. I've got to do this. And I think, for me, I'm an ex-athlete. Like the director Ray Green, I played baseball in college. I'm raising young athletes. I think this film sort of explores the full spectrum of kind of the beautiful and the sublime, all the way to the toxic kind of relationship sort of parents and have with sports in this country. I'm so enormously grateful to athletics. And I think ultimately, for me, this movie, it really is this meditation on parenthood and on family and fatherhood. And it explores all the nooks and crannies of it. I felt like it didn't shy away from the mistakes and from the ugly parts and the hard parts. And to me, there's nothing more important in this world than being a parent. And I think the number one rule for it is you are going to make mistakes. Like, you are going to mess up. And I think sort of having an acute awareness of these mistakes and admitting these mistakes and processing these mistakes with your kids, it's just super valuable and important. And I love the role that athletics can kind of bring to kids, and I love that this sort of explored that, and again, the power of family and the power of faith. So yeah, I love that this man, this character, I love that Rick had this profound, joyous love for the game, and that sort of in a mirror of the entertainment industry. I have a real, I think, understanding of what it means to kind of be an outsider, where it feels like nobody wants you and you're constantly shut out. And then all of a sudden you get a little heat, and all of a sudden people come at you in a very different way. And I loved that, Rick was this character that, really he fell in love with these two young women. He fell in love with their family. He was a part of it. And ultimately it wasn't just sort of about what they could do for his pocketbook. And it was what could they do for the game of tennis? And what could the game of tennis do for this family that he really, really loved and felt a part of? And I thought that there was a real purity to him. So yeah, I'm really grateful I got this shot.
Yeah, and the enthusiasm you have right here talking about it. I mean, I think it's so apparent in the film. Like, he's like, it just comes across so well in the film. I know I've read interviews with you. I know you love like kind of throwing yourself into the characters, I say, or like at least doing like a lot of research to make sure you're like hitting the authenticity of like what the skill is, right? So like for Punisher, you definitely were like did a lot of research. Or so for this, playing Rick Macci, I know he's obviously alive, and like I know you're an athlete, but how much did you have to go into like understanding the world of tennis and like, like that aspect of it, I guess?
Yeah, look, again, I think one of the things Ray and I connected on immediately is, we wanted to get the tennis right. Being athletes ourselves, being baseball players, you can see in one instant, you see a guy throw a ball, and you say, there's no way, it just doesn't work. And you're immediately out of the film. And I take that enormously seriously. If I'm playing a soldier, if I'm playing a cop, if I'm playing a scientist, you got to learn the trade. And I think that's, people kind of, I think, actors kind of go on and on about all the work that they put in. What a gift, what an amazing thing that you get to learn these new skills. And I take that part of it. I recognize it for what it is. It's an enormous gift. And I'm really, really grateful to Ray and to the producers that they didn't say, oh, this annoying actor wants to, dive in. They said, yeah, man, whatever you need. So there's a tennis academy where I live here in Ojai, California, called the Wheel Tennis Academy. And I started training 3 to 6 hours a day, every single day. I had not played tennis, but it's amazing what you can pick up when you have some of the best coaches in the world, and you have this kind of common goal. But more than just training in tennis, I had to change my body. It was really important. I just came off the Punisher. I was over 200 pounds. It was important for Ray that I looked like him. It was important to me. So I lost 30 pounds, and the tennis really helped with that. But I think more than just learning the game, what they allowed me to do there is work with this one young woman specifically, who's a top 20 junior tennis player. I called her the champ. Her name's Kamea, and I got to train her. So they taught me the vocabulary of coaching, how to feed, how to run drills. And I became enormously confident with that, and confident enough that I started to train her in character, and I started to bring the voice and even sometimes the clothes, even though I got laughed at a lot, what a wonderful opportunity, to pick up this wonderful skill. And now I play all the time, and I love it.
That's awesome. Do you have, when you're doing that, and obviously you mentioned like you have like kids and like doing athletics with them, do you like did you learn things about like coaching, not to go too off the beaten path, but did you learn things about coaching that you're able to like bring with them when they're athletics now, or anything like, yeah.
Look, tennis is, one of the sports I've sort of spent the most time, I have the closest relationship in my life, is boxing. And I find them enormously similar. You only got you in there, and it's so mental, and not focusing on mistakes, how to sort of focus on it's a whole mindset. Okay, what was the mistake I made? Let's just focus on one thing at a time. Let's the next ball, let's just not make that mistake. And I love that approach. It's simple, and it requires this unbelievable sort of mastery of your own emotions and focus. And I think coaching in that is so important. It requires, just like being a trainer in boxing, this unbelievable intimacy and knowledge of your player. And I think in this world of tennis coaches that are definitely portrayed in the film, these sort of hard driving taskmasters, be a killer, the thing Serena Williams told me when I first talked to her about Rick is, she said, playing with Rick Macci, being at his academy was one of the funnest times of my life. Everyone said it who played for him, how much fun it was. And, aside from just talking to Rick, one of the age-old kind of acting exercises, that I learned coming up is write down every single thing that other characters say about your character. It's not about what you say about yourself, but that's how you figure out who the guy is. And everybody just talked about how much fun he had, and how much fun he was always making it a game. If you had to get somewhere, he was racing. It was always a bet. It was always a contest. And I love that aspect of it. I loved making these two brilliant young women, Sanaya and Demi, who played these roles. I love making them laugh, even if they were laughing at me, laughing at my short shorts, laughing at my goofy mustache or my hair. As long as I was keeping them laughing, I loved it. And I think that there's a real sort of community and familial aspect to this movie that in the process of making this movie that doesn't happen often. I think when you can create this atmosphere of creativity, foster this atmosphere of creativity where anything is possible and everybody sort of dares to risk and make each other laugh and change it up. It's my favorite thing about making movies. I love it, and I feel like it really worked on this one.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that, because the movie is so fun, and I think it like really that kind of energy and enthusiasm really comes across. You had mentioned Ronaldo Marcus Green, the director. Do you credit him for like leading from the top down, or how? Like, why do you think it ended up being so like collaborative and like that for you?
Look, I think just like anything else, look, the best thing about making films is you've got all these different people from all these different walks of life. You've got, all races, all religions, all sexual orientations, politics. It runs the gamut. When you talk about the Teamsters to the Grips to the craft service to the hair and makeup, you got but you're all on this creative endeavor together. And when it works, every single person, you get rid of all the hierarchy nonsense, and every single person contributes and is free and is equal and it is so committed to this creative act. Of course, it starts with these folks at the top. I can't say enough good about Ray Green. He's one of the most positive and beautiful people I know. As I said, we connected immediately as athletes, as fathers, as sons, as brothers. But you know, and now I just got done doing this HBO project, this David Simon project in Baltimore, and Ray directed all the episodes. We went on it together. I love him. He nurtures such creativity, and he's so positive. And he's the perfect. He directed this, in my opinion, perfectly. He let everybody play, and he didn't just allow creativity and collaboration and ingenuity on set. He demanded it. He was hungry for it. But I think a lot of the credit's got to go to Will too. You know, when you have this sort of, you know, mega movie star who comes in so willing to play, so open. I'm blown away by the young women in this. You know, all the sisters. You know, they came in with this whole life, and so, you know, people talk about this method acting of staying in it. You know, we stayed in it all the time, not because we were trying to out method each other, or we were trying to show each other how committed we were to this process, because it was such a beautiful place to be, such a beautiful world to kind of live in and to play, to make each other laugh. And you can't ever forget that the sense of play and how sometimes, you know, this thing can be really beautiful. And when you have everybody committed, it doesn't have to be, you know, this unbelievable toil and this hard work. That you do all that and then you come and you play.
Right. You kind of brought this up earlier, talking about like the little bit of like the movie shows like runs the gamut of like the really emotional stuff, and like also like the potential toxicity of like coaching and sports with parents. I wanted to ask you a little about like that too, from like a masculinity standpoint. I think I've seen you touch on this too in other interviews, so I doubt I'm saying anything new, but I think Rick is like a really great character because he is like really tough, but in not maybe the traditional or whatever modern sense we think of like as a tough guy. And I think the way you portray him is like great, because like you said, he stands up for the girls, he really does believe in them, and I think that kind of stuff takes like, even especially when you're having such a against like Richard, who is such a, you know, imposing figure, it does take some bravery and stuff. And I guess, can you talk about being able to show like that side of masculinity maybe that is not always seen in films?
Sure. I mean, look, I'm glad you see it that way, because I certainly do. I believe that in this country right now, there's a bit of a masculinity crisis. I think masculinity and strength and power is being confused with being with being steadfast in your opinion. It's being confused with sort of bombast and rhetoric and being loud and saying it's my way or the highway. I don't think that's masculine at all. And in fact, I can't imagine anything weaker. And I don't want to be misconstrued here, and I don't want to, I want to be completely honest. I absolutely believe in discipline. I absolutely believe in protecting your family, being able to protect yourself, being able to protect the people that you love. And I believe that those are, real hallmarks of what masculinity is. But I also think being open, being sensitive, being empathetic, being willing, able, and hungry to sit down with people that think differently than you, and not looking at people as a challenge. That's fear. That's cowardice. I feel like, we're so fractured right now because people think it's weak somehow to sit down and talk to somebody, and being humble enough to say, I don't have all the answers. Oh, you think differently than me? You vote differently than me? You believe in different things differently? You're not the enemy. Maybe I can learn something from you. Maybe you can learn something from me. Maybe we'll get to a better place if we converse. And how great is it that sort of art can kind of bring these things up? I think there are all kinds of masculinity, and I believe that guys like Lee Iacocca, who I played, or Rick Macci, these guys are just as fierce and as strong. And it's not about again being the loudest voice in the room, and it's not about intimidation. It's not about the first. Anytime somebody tells you how tough they are, I can guarantee you it's not true. I can guarantee you, and I've just learned that from being in boxing gyms around this country. It's the loudest guy in the gym's is the last guy you got to worry about. It's the one that shakes your hand, smiles, and asks you if you would like to fight. He's willing to. That's how I'm trying to raise my boys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I definitely have thought of. I'm a father too, and I'm like, oh, you definitely think of things differently. I think as you're raising a child, right? Like, I know not to make it like a parent privilege or anything, but I'm like, oh, I definitely have thought about like masculinity differently as I've become a parent. So I think it's
Sure.
great, and I think what you said there is great, and it shows in the film too, because I think it's like really, really cool to see. Before I wrap up, I like I mentioned at the top here, you've been in so many things. You have so many projects this year. I wanted to ask you. I loved you as Johnny Boy in Many Saints of Newark. You play Tony Soprano's dad. Just a totally different, obviously way different Rick Macy, but you embodied it so well. It's so authentic. I thought like you and Vera together were great as Livia. Can you talk about getting to like play a little bit in that Sopranos world? I just thought it was so fun.
Look, when I was first starting out, it was sort of at the apex of Sopranos. I begged my agents in New York, I just wanted to be background on that show. I just wanted to walk on one of those sets. I never got the opportunity. Look, for me, Jim Gandolfini is he was just a real titan, one of my favorite actors of all time. Unbelievably sort of important and just meaningful kind of idol of mine. I met Mike Gandolfini before we started this process, and I fell in love with this young man. I was so blown away by his wisdom, his courage, this unbelievable just bravery and the vitality that he went and approached this by kind of getting to know his dad better by taking on this role. I really wanted to be there for him on this and stand by him and stand in front of him, behind him, and by his side. And I'm just so proud of him. And that's really how I went into this process. That's what I tried to do throughout it. And that's what I do now. I think the most beautiful thing about this at the end of the day is the people you meet along the way. And Mikey is just such a pure, wonderful, good guy. And I love that role stays squarely in the Gandolfini family.
Yeah, it's really great, and I think he's so good in it, and the movie's a lot of fun. And then the last one, again, you mentioned like working with like top talent. Obviously, you have Unforgivable coming with Sandra Bullock. I was reading, I think you did an interview with Variety recently, and she was like, she called you specifically for the part. When you read, I mean, like that's got to be really, I guess, encouraging or just so cool. But I mean, like, what was that like? And like, I haven't gotten to see that one yet, but I know I'm just excited too, and I just love to hear about like, like that specific thing. I just thought that was fascinating. That Sandra Bullock is one of the great, like Will Smith, a humongous star, like looking for you. Like,
look, a couple things on that. I mean, number one, I don't know how to express this enough. I am so just ridiculously grateful for this. I love doing this. I loved it from the second I got on stage. I love it, and I love that I get to do what I love and support my family by doing what I love. And these sort of pinch myself moments, they're not, for me, I'm just as hungry. I'm just as in awe as I was 20 years ago. It hasn't changed one bit. And when you get a phone call like that, it's not so much that it's, wow, that's Sandra Bullock on the phone with me, because there is that. And I have such enormous respect for her and her body of work. But the fact that it meant enough to her to that she wanted this specific actor for this specific part, like just artist to artist, that just meant the world to me. It told me what kind of project this was going to be, that it was that important to her. And I think I talk about this a lot, sort of, the different responsibilities. Because one of my favorite things in the world, man, is coming onto a project and working on it for 2 days and getting out of there. And one of my favorite things about film is when you see a character who just kind of pops up and you say like, wow, I wonder where that guy goes. And you can make a whole movie about that guy. I love the opportunity to do that. I love every bit of it. But there's also something about being a lead. And when you talk about people like Sandy and Will and DiCaprio and Emily Blunt and Brad Pitt, these folks that I've gotten the pleasure to work with and work on what I consider, there's all this other work. Yes, they're amazing. They're brilliant artists, but there's all this other stuff that they're doing of, again, fostering a community and an atmosphere of creativity where they could use their power for so many things on set. But what they do is they're just so encouraging. They're just so welcoming. They're so uplifting. And I think this thing only works when, you know, there's really this free flow and this this idea that we're all 100 feet tall and that anything is possible, and bring it. What do you got? Bring it. And Sandy is definitely that kind of actor and that kind of leader. And I just take so much from these folks. I'm so grateful that I got to be, and I get to be in their presence, and then I can take it on to shows where I get to be the lead of, and I can do that for other folks, because it's really what I think. You know, I'm an ensemble based guy. Like that is just like, you know, I'm Russian trained. That's what I believe in. That's how this thing works. It's not about me. It's not about my coverage or your coverage. It's what we do here together, what we create together, and with this beautiful crew. And I just think it's words to live by. And I think ultimately it's things that we can really, if we can pass anything down to our kids and sort of the way we work, I think it's that. It's this willingness and this hunger and this insistence on collaboration and openness and squashing your ego and trying to make everybody else as good as they can.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I mean, I think obviously you have so many other things coming up. I know American Gigolo, the David Simon Show, like you mentioned, just so maybe we'll get to do this again, but it's been great chatting with Jon Bernthal. King Richard, great movie, out Friday, November 19th in theaters, also on HBO Max. Please check it out. Jon, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Best to your family. It was really cool talking to you.